Welcome to the 60X Business Show. My name is Kitumaini, and together with my guests, we'll be having different conversations about business, entrepreneurship, technology, and life. And this is the show you've been waiting for. Stay tuned. In today's conversation, my guest is Olivia Zank. Olivia, how are you today?
I'm doing very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. Thanks for making it to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Wonderful. A little bit of background. Olivia is the CEO and founder of Benefactors Limited. And Benefactors Limited is the fintech company supporting entrepreneurs and SMEs here in Rwanda. She's also a development economist. She's passionate about numbers. Is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
Is there anything about you that I forgot to introduce you on?
No, I think that's good.
Wonderful. So in the show, we'll be spinning the wheel and we're going to randomly select a number and from there, I'll be asking you a question. Are you excited about this?
Very.
It's going to be fun and it's going to be fine. So over to you. Let's spin the wheel.
All right.
Wonderful. Question number 9. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Don't look here, please. I'm kidding. Can you tell me a moment in your time running your business and you basically realize that this is too much. Being an entrepreneur, it's hard, and you were about to give up. And how did you feel?
That's a good question. I mean, there's no denying that entrepreneurship can be really, really tough. And there are moments that you don't think there's any way out. It can feel very lonely as well. You feel like you're going through this experience very much on your own. Of course, if you have a co-founder, you're in it together. But if you're running a company by yourself, it can be a very, very lonely experience. But I think it also depends on your expectations. So going into it, I mean, I do have family members, I do have friends who are entrepreneurs as well, and I've been seeing the struggle that they've been going through. And going into it, I think I expected it, for parts of it to be very, very tough. And I don't think I expected it to be as tough as it has been, but I think I knew what I got myself into in that sense. So there's never been any moment where I outright wanted to quit. But there's definitely been moments where I'm like, I'm not enjoying this. This is not fun. This is not the part that I love. But it's part of it. I mean, when we often glorify entrepreneurship as thinking this is you're exciting, you're innovating. Sure, that's the 10% of it. The 90% is repetitive. You're doing the same thing. You're doing things you're not skilled, you're not qualified to do. You just have to make it work somehow. And those moments are tough, but I think the loneliness is really what I think pushes a lot of people to give up, because it is a very isolating experience.
Wonderful. I picked the loneliness part because I know most the trick that many entrepreneurs and founders they connect with other entrepreneurs to learn about the journey, to learn about the experience, which is very, very great to show to keep up the spirit and show how we end this together. My follow-up question: is this your first venture? Because I remember you worked for the Ministry of Trade before you've been the advisor to the minister here in Rwanda.
Yeah.
Is it Benefactor was your first ventures as an entrepreneur?
Very first. I'd been working in the public sector before. Never thought I would actually start a business. Wasn't something I anticipated, but then the idea came and I was so compelled by it that when it starts to be the only thing you can think of, then okay, you have to do it. Like you can't not do it. So then, it was first time founder.
Nice. That's really an amazing story. Can you spin the wheel for the next question?
Let's do it.
Let's roll the drums. Question number 11. You love 9 and 11. What is the number one thing yourself being an entrepreneur and founders you've learned growing your business?
Ooh, the number one thing I learned. Can I only pick one?
Just be as more open as you can. It may not be only limited to one.
Yeah.
But let's start with the top one.
I think the one thing, the top one thing that I've learned is this feeling that it doesn't matter if you don't know the end result, as long as you know what's the next 2 steps, or even 1 step. As long as you can start moving, you can figure out a lot of things along the way. And I think having this mindset and having this confidence that I can start on something, I don't know the final destination, I think this is the direction we're going in, and that's enough. And having learned that, I think it's a crucial part that a lot of entrepreneurs learn early on. And it gives a little bit the superpower feeling that, okay, well, I've solved all these problems, but what else can I do, right? And it's very empowering, and it's a great feeling.
That's amazing. Before you embark into the business world, did you take time, like, mentally to prepare, shifting from the public sector to start your own things that back then you had no idea that you could reach this far? Did you take time to prepare, or it was like a spark within you that was inside to say, I'm excited about this, let me go and do this?
It was definitely the latter. It was not a planned transition. Like I said, it was an idea that came to me while I was working in the Ministry of Trade, and I just couldn't not do it. So I was, working evenings and weekends while still doing my job, and no, there was not much time to reflect. Once it starts, it just becomes so all-consuming that it's all you can do, and then there you are, and you just have to keep going with it and see where it takes you.
Wonderful, that's amazing. Let's spin the wheel for
another one.
Next question. Number 6.
Number 6.
You've secured a lot of investments, right? Why should an investor invest in your company than your competitor out there? Why should an investor pick Benefactor than any other company to invest in?
So I'm going to flip the question slightly, if you don't mind, because there's this conception that we have to fight for investment, and it's, like you say, it's a competition. But really, there's more than enough money out there in this world. And if you're too focused on the competition, too focused on what everybody else is doing, you lose track of the most important thing. There are, in the last 3 years, I must have spoken to hundreds of potential investors, whether they're angel or institutions or debt or whatever. And for 99% of them, we were not the right fit. Nothing to do with us or whatever. Maybe they're focused on a different sector or a different country or you name it, right? So there's definitely enough money out there, but it's all about finding the one that's right for you. And all you can do is make your company the best company possibly you can do. Because that's really the only thing that matters. You can't compare yourself too much to other companies because they will have things that you don't have, you have things that they don't have, and you really want to focus on how can you create the best possible investment opportunity for the investor, and then think of it that way. You're also giving the investor an opportunity to earn money. That's what they're after. A lot of, and I would say this is across the East African market that I know the best, is that there are so many investors struggling to find good investment opportunities. So if we can really support our growing entrepreneurs to become more investment ready and to sort of work on their own companies, make the investment, put the structure in place that makes them a good investment opportunity, there's definitely money out there. But you have to do that work. On your own company. You have to sort of look at your company from as would an outsider and say, well, if I was looking at this as someone else would, what would I not like? And then you work on that. And where is it that we need to improve and so on. And then the competition will always be there, but they're doing their own thing.
And talking about investment, your company provides investments to SMEs. I'll go back to that question after, but I would like you to elaborate. Are you currently facing some challenges with the global pandemic, operating, reaching out to your existing clients, reaching out to potential new clients? What are those challenges and how are you tackling them?
Yeah, obviously the pandemic has wreaked havoc on the entire world economy. I don't think there's any company out there that's not been affected in one way or the other. On the first layer, obviously, we've been affected just in terms of how do we keep people safe? How do we keep our staff safe? How do we keep our clients safe? How do we cause the minimum amount of potential risk of infection? We've shifted basically everyone to work from home. We're slowly starting to see, a few people are back in the office, but for 4 or 5 months, everyone was working from home. How do you make that happen? Does everyone have internet at home? Like, is it even possible? Are people used to it? So luckily, we have a very strong team with a very strong work ethic already. So people were sort of very, very quick to just adapt to the new situation. But that's been a challenge for sure. But then also, secondly, we're seeing a lot of our clients. Obviously, our service is that we finance invoices. Like we buy invoices that small companies are waiting to get paid for. And a lot of our clients have seen their business decline. They're still working, but maybe at 20% of what they used to do. So that also means that we're not dispersing as much money. I mean, we're not buying as many invoices as we used to. And finding new clients in this market is tricky because everyone has seen their business disrupted. A lot of people have lost business. So there's just a lot of disruption, and it's hard to know what's normal, what's temporary, and those are the kind of challenges that we're looking at when we're looking at the clients, sort of understanding what's a temporary dip and what's a permanent, what is going to get permanent that they're not expecting right now, and things change. I mean, we've seen now with the spike in cases again, curfew's been moved up. There will continue to be challenges like this where we have to adapt to new circumstances, all the while keeping everyone safe. So it's an interesting time to be an entrepreneur.
Wow. Yeah, definitely. There's a lot of learnings about being an entrepreneur during this pandemic. And talking about risk appetite and investments, are there specific sectors that you are looking mostly at when you want to, for example, buy their inventory or help them having access to finance? Are there specific sectors that you're looking at and say, actually, this sector, these periods may not be good for them? We know, like tourism and hospitality, a few months ago, they were really badly affected because there were no internal domestic tourism activities happening. We've seen the shift with more internal tourists visiting different places. We've seen that those businesses has been affected. Still, they're affected because they can't achieve their sales. Do you have internally some sectors that your risk appetite is higher for them while you want to support them during this time?
Yeah. So there's 2 sectors at the moment that we're focusing on. One is healthcare, and the other is agriculture.
Okay.
And that's really where we are seeing both the least disruption, but also the most need for goods and services to continue to flow. Because obviously, when small companies don't have the money that they need to run their businesses, service delivery is impacted. So at the beginning of the pandemic, we were looking at saying, well, not only how can we survive this, but also how can we be a positive influence? How can we have a contribution towards supporting Rwanda through this pandemic? And we could see that providing working capital specifically to the healthcare sector was where we could have the best influence. So we've been working a lot with pharmacies, with health posts, with clinics, wholesale distributors, and so on. Anyone who's in the healthcare sector in one way or the other is where we've been focusing a lot. Secondly is agriculture, and that's from a similar thinking. Food supplies need to come. We still, we need to make sure there's food security for all Rwandans. What can we do? Well, we provide finance. So let's focus on those 2 sectors.
Wonderful. That's amazing. You lead a diverse team at Benefactors, and how would you define leadership?
Ooh. How would I define leadership? I think we're in an interesting time when it comes to leadership. Obviously, you go a couple of generations back. A lot of leadership is what we nowadays would call management. Command, control, do this, come at 8 o'clock, do these things, and then go home, right? That's a very sort of, people do as they're told because they have to. And then we've started to see a shift more towards people needing to use their brains. And if you have someone who sat behind a computer, it's very hard to measure their productivity as you would someone in a factory. So if you're managing a team of office workers, you can't have that command and control management style. It has to be a leadership that comes from the heart. and it poses a lot of new challenges. But ultimately, I think you have to end up in a situation where people follow you because they want to. You can't force an office worker to. I mean, if they're not productive, if they don't want to be there, if they don't respect you, the output that you get is. I mean, we're not talking 10% difference. We're talking 3, 4, 5 times the difference in productivity, in risk management. I mean, especially for us, risk management is very important. We need to have a team that collectively is always focused on what's the risk, what's the potential, things that we need to keep an eye out for when it comes to our clients. And for that, we need a team that's engaged, people who believe in what they do, and people who are passionate about the product and the service delivery that we're doing. So to be a leader in this kind of environment, it's my role to make sure that they understand why they're doing what they're doing and that they want to be doing it, but also to make it clear that no one is forcing them. And if for one reason they decide they don't want to be there anymore, it's not in my interest to make them. So that of course puts a different challenge, but I think at the end of the day, it's also a much better environment to work in.
Wonderful, and I like the fact you pointed something about the team, and we've been discussing before this interview about how you were able to build your senior team, and as the CEO and founder, when it comes to hiring and building your dream team, what are like the key things that you look at when you want to bring people on board?
There's a number of different aspects, but I think you can sort of boil it down to 3 key things. One is, do I like the person? Do I want to work with them? Especially when we're talking about senior team members, it has to be someone, you don't need to be best friends with them, but you need to at least like them as a person. Secondly, do you trust them? And here we're talking about the kind of trust that, would you leave your children with them? Would you trust them with all of your money? Yeah. That's the kind of trust you need to have in especially as a founder in a startup team, because they will be taking on and driving a lot of parts of the company that I have to completely go of. So therefore I have to really trust them with my baby, which is my company, right? And then thirdly, can you learn from them? So do they know something that you don't know? Because there's this thing, if you want to build a good team, you need to hire the best people and then get out of their way, right? So they need to also be better than me. And there's no point in hiring people that are not better than you and then give them responsibility over something that they might not be able to do. I mean, you should hire people, especially when we're talking senior level people here, to take something that you can't do yourself as a founder to be an extension, but then they also have to be experts in their field in a way that I'm not. So those are the 3 things that I'm looking for.
That's wonderful. So it's number 1, you need to like the person. Number 2, you need to trust the person. Number 3, it's something that you can learn something from, right? There is no point basically hiring someone from a senior position and then the person is just come and start learning from you instead of him coming and bringing value and helping the companies thrive. Wonderful. And for some viewers, Benefactors, it's a fintech company operating here in Rwanda. And that will go to my next question to Olivia. Why did you choose Rwanda to operate in? Why not any other country? What made the decision to establish a fintech here in Rwanda?
I mean, the obvious answer, of course, is I was living in Rwanda at the time. Right? As you mentioned, I was working in Minicom as an advisor. But beyond that, of course, I mean, there are many places I wouldn't want to start a business. And one of the things that I found in Rwanda to be so unique is, and also having worked on the inside of government, is understanding how deep the authorities and the government's commitment to promoting private sector development really is. There are still, of course, room for improvement, and we can all complain all day long about the things that are not yet there, but really this fundamental desire to make it easier to start a business, to run a business, to grow a business is something that as a founder is so important, because then that also means that then the willingness is there to help you. The desire is there to see you grow. And that's really all you need from a business environment. You need the people in charge of the environment to want you to grow as well. Then you do the rest yourself.
Wonderful. That's amazing. Enough reason. And you having access to finance, it's a challenge for a lot of entrepreneurs. Having access to working capital, a lot of SMEs, they face that challenge most of the time during their growth. Can you walk us through your company process? How do you help SMEs bridge that gap?
Yeah, right. So we provide a specific financial service that help a certain segment of companies. I mean, I will have to say from the top that we're not able to help everyone. Mm-hmm. And specifically, we talked about earlier this, we buy invoices. So if you don't have an invoice, we can't help you, unfortunately, right? So, but for the companies that do have an invoice, what we do is we say, let me have a look at that invoice. Who's going to pay it, first of all? What's it for? And once we sort of have those few things understood, then we might say, yeah, you know what, we'll buy that. So here's cash, we'll take the invoice, and then when it gets paid, they pay us. And that's really the basis of it. Of course, we need to understand who you are, we need to understand who your buyer is, and there's additional information we might ask, but really it's a simple process. You get an answer, maximum 5 working days for the first application, and for the second and the second, third time, whatever, is 1 business day. Because we understand that when it comes to cash, when it comes to working capital, it can often be very, very urgent. So we're working on bringing that down. Yeah. We think 5 days is a long time. We want to have it down to 1 day. That's our goal. And it really shouldn't be more complicated than that. I mean, we're able to go and check the background details in RDB. We're able to get all these information in a place like Rwanda. We all have national IDs and so on. With that, we are able to get the information that we need very early on so that we can make an offer or not. Do we want to buy this invoice or do we not?
Okay.
That's what we do.
That's very well structured procedures. Can anyone just, being an entrepreneur, just come to you guys, or are there other criteria, like a business should be maybe operating this certain amount of time to be eligible? What's like the eligibility for someone to qualify?
Yeah, so it's less about the company as more about who's the buyer. Okay. That's really where we see most of the rejections coming from. If the institution who's paying the invoice is not what we deem creditworthy, then we won't take the risk, right? Okay. Because obviously we have to be confident that this invoice is going to get paid within a reasonable amount of time without needing a lot of work to follow up and so on. But if you're supplying a big company, you're supplying the government, you're supplying a big NGO and so on, then we know that the invoice, it's safe from that perspective. So then what we need to see is just that you don't have a bad credit record with TransUnion, the few other basic things that we go through, that you don't owe any money to RA, but those are standard things. It doesn't matter if the business is 6 months old or 10 years old. It doesn't matter if it's your first business and so on. What really matters is who you're selling to and how much do we know about the institution that you're selling to.
Wonderful, that's amazing. You are the CEO of a FinTech company, and FinTech is finance plus technology combined together. And you are the winner of SeedStar 2018, correct?
That's correct.
What are the most important things building both the financial aspect and technology combined together of your business? Was there any challenge? I guess you have no technology background, right?
None.
No. You've been the advisor to the Minister of Trade. You are the person who is good with numbers, the economics, but the other mechanism of technology, I'm sure they're not your things. How are you able to cope with all that?
It was interesting. I mean, this was part of what I was saying earlier, that the confidence you get from just trying things and not knowing where you don't understand the full process as you begin. Technology has been a big aspect for that for me. I've not turned into a programmer. I've not turned into a software engineer overnight. Definitely not. That's not my expertise. But what I did sort of learn was, well, what is the minimum amount we can get away with for now until I can hire someone who's actually an expert. And I mean, just this year we were able to get Clément, our CTO, on board, and it's been a complete game changer for the company, of course. But up until that point, it was sort of understanding, well, technology is a tool at the end of the day, right? It's not, I mean, save for a few tech companies who do like what we call deep tech, like AI and sort of the very futuristic things. For most of us, technology is just a tool. It's just enabling you to do what it is that you want to do more efficiently, smarter, safer, with less mistakes. And so looking at our process, looking at the company, I mean, of course, we could do everything manually. And I do know factoring companies that do the entire process manually. That's not what we wanted to do. We wanted to have technology from the beginning and really making sure that we use all the tools that are out there. So what could I do to start with? Well, I could learn basic. I mean, initially I just used Excel. I mean, that's what I knew. But quickly we outgrew that. It was too complex. It was getting too heavy to work in Excel. So then we used a different service, which is like a low-code platform. It's a service called AppSheet, where essentially you can build your own app, you can build your own database, you can build your own system without needing to learn much coding. It's basic. So I taught myself how to use that and put that in place. And sort of in terms of learnings, I mean, technology is really an amazing thing. Right?
Definitely.
It's exponential because you take something that normally would take a team member a whole day to do, and you automate that. That frees up that entire day to do something else, and you put that on top of each other. And also, it frees up the day of the client who's now getting the money and the contract one day faster than before because we've saved that time. So you start adding up all those time saved and the less effort that's spent throughout the system. And of course, with every step, also remember there's the risk of making mistakes. The computer doesn't make mistakes, right? It does exactly what it is that you tell it to do. So that for us was really, or for me personally, was really the biggest learning, that not only can I exponentially grow the capacity of my team without hiring anyone, but also I can make everything just faster and safer and less prone to errors throughout. So.
That's wonderful. For some of the listeners, as you can hear from Olivia, technology is very, very important. It saves you time to do errors, and I hope for small business owners who have opportunities to put technology into their internal processes, this is the time, and technology it's very, very key, and it enables your business to thrive and enable you to have clear reports and be on top of what you're doing. Let me wrap this conversation with my last question. It's kind of more personal. Who is your everyday hero in your life?
There's no doubt that's my fiance. He's also an entrepreneur. Started when he was just 17 and is just the most structured person I know. And in that sense, whenever I feel like I'm dealing with something that's difficult and is challenging, he's the one I can go to who can help me. Like, no, okay, actually just break it down, look at it this way, and then all of a sudden it's not so difficult anymore. So without a doubt.
Is he also a number person like you?
No, he's a software engineer, so not an economist.
Nice, great combination. I can see where the combination of FinTech coming into play. So thanks a lot for your time, Olivia. And we are coming to the end of this conversation. For all the viewers, thanks a lot for watching. The conversation continues on social media using the hashtag 60x business. And my handle is Christian Kitumaini. Till next time. You guys take care, wear your mask, and I see you down the road. Thank you. Thanks a lot, Olivia.